What's going on, guys? It's Friday morning. I'm drinking my cup of coffee, and I want to talk to you guys about calories in, calories out, and how I work my protocol with my clients that in such a way that I completely ignore that, right? I don't count calories. I don't think calories are the best measure of um, giving your body what it needs and making it easy to understand and manage what you're taking in order to sustain an adequate nutrient profile. I guess what you want to call it that, right? Macronutrients um, in your lifestyle. Um, had a conversation with somebody last night that just kind of reaffirmed that the philosophy and methodology that I use is a little bit more, I think, more effective than counting calories and just looking at macros straight by calories. Calories in, calories out is a little oversimplified, in my opinion. Um, it is taking things into account that don't need to be taken into account, right? I'm going to say a couple of things in the next few minutes that you may not agree with. That's okay. You don't have to agree with it. I'm going to say some things you may have never heard before. Do your own research. Look into the stuff. See if what I'm saying is backed by anything. Okay, and then ask yourself the same questions and figure out for yourself the answers to the things that I'm going to talk about. Okay. Um, Calories in, calories out considers protein, fat, and carbs to be fuel. It looks at everything that you eat and compares that to what we consider our total expenditure of calories in a day, and then compares that to what you eat in your macronutrients and says, did you spend or did you save? Essentially, it's like a bank account. Did you put money into your bank? If you put money into the bank that you didn't spend, you're going to get fat. If you take more money out than you have in the bank, you're going to get skinny, right? That's pretty much how it works, okay? Calories in, calories out. If your calories are higher than what you expend, you're going to get fat. If they're lower than what you expend, you're going to lose fat. And that is technically true, but there's more to it. And it's why people have difficulty managing and maintaining. Um, Protein does not count as fuel. And that is one of the things that you're probably going to say, what are you talking about? When we talk about the activity of our body, when we're talking about burning fuel, we have to look at something called the oxidative priority. Okay. And I'm not going to get too much into that, but let's just suffice it to say that when you look at the order your body processes different things, okay, fat and carbs are processed as fuel, right? They provide energy to the body. Protein is provided to restore, repair, and build the body. Okay? Two very different things. Okay? When your body needs energy, it goes to fat and it goes to carbs. When your body needs material to grow, it goes to protein. All right? So, that being said, why are we counting protein as a fuel? Okay? And I'll explain this in a second. First thing we want to talk about is we want to talk about something called the thermic effect of fuel, okay, of food, excuse me, TEF, okay? Basically, everything that we eat has a cost to process. If I put a hamburger in my mouth, my body has to expend energy to process that hamburger so that my body can do what it needs to do with it, okay? So basically, there's a cost for food, for processing the food. So if I eat 100 calories, I'm losing some of that energy. That 100 calories of food that I'm eating has a cost. It may cost me 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever of the energy to process what I ate. So I'm only effectively getting, let's say 30%. If I eat 100 calories of beef, I'm really only getting about 70% of those calories, 70 calories of usable material, okay? Because it's about 30%, 35% thermic effective food for protein, okay? So I'm losing 30 to 35% of what I eat. Number one, that's off the bat. The thermic effect of food says that I'm losing calories, okay, based on the type of food that I eat. It's different for fat, it's different for carbs. We're focusing on protein right now. So, what is the thermic effect of protein? That's the first question. 30 to 35%. Okay, keep that in mind. The second thing is, what is protein used for? Protein is used not for fuel, but for muscle protein synthesis and cellular repair, right? It's used to maintain our body, not to provide energy, but to maintain. So the question is, how much protein does someone need to eat in order to maintain their lean mass, in order to not lose body mass, to not lose muscle, but just to stay where they are? Not even talking about growth, just stay where you are, maintain your lean body mass. You'll see anywhere from 0.8 to 0.8 to 1.2 pounds per lean mass. So let's cut that in the middle and say 1. Okay, so on average, a person needs 1 gram of protein for every pound of lean mass. Okay, so if I have 150 pounds of lean mass in my body, then I need 150 grams of protein every day to maintain my lean mass. Okay, so if we take that and we say, well, 30% of that intake, I'm taking 150 grams in, 30% of that is gone, right? Those calories are gone, right? Because it's used to process. So I'm really only getting, 85 grams, right? I'm getting 0.85 grams now per pound of lean mass. So I'm automatically down. So that means anything that I do, if I'm taking in exactly what I need to maintain, okay, everything that I'm eating that's protein going into my body is being used for muscle protein synthesis. What is left to be burned for fuel? Even if it were a fuel, okay? The priority for protein is muscle protein synthesis, building the body, keeping the body maintained. If I'm eating enough to do that, what is left to be burned for fuel? Okay, that question is nothing. There's nothing left. Even if I add 30% to that. So if I have to do 150 grams to maintain, if I include 30% of TEF, that's 130 plus 15, that's 180, 195. Okay, 195 grams, including the accounting for the 30% loss, is what I would actually need to eat to maintain. That's not talking about the type of workouts that I do and how much muscle repair I cause a need for based on how much I work out and what kind of workouts I do. That's just maintaining, not looking at lifestyle, okay? The energy is the fat and the carbs, has nothing to do with the protein, all right? And you may ask, well, what about protein being used for fuel through gluconeogenesis? Okay, in the presence of fat and carbs, not a problem. Don't need to worry about it, okay? In the presence of carbs, don't even worry about it. In the presence of fat, and if you're fat adapted and you have ketones in your bloodstream, the body has this really cool thing where it will look at the fat first, it will look at the ketones, and it can convert ketones to glucose, okay, through gluconeogenesis before proteins. Gluconeogenesis and the usage of proteins to sugar, okay, for glycolytic activity happens in the absence of fat and carbs. If you don't have enough fat, if you don't have enough carbs, then the body will use the protein for fuel in a very small percentage, right? You have to be super lean body composition and in your nutrition, right? To have and work out like a madman in order to create a scenario where your body has to convert protein into sugars, right? It's just not something that most people, many people, almost anybody needs to worry about. So the cost of food, the cost of protein, the fact that protein isn't used at all for fuel, the fact that your body can use ketones to create glucose. It doesn't need to use protein. It kind of blows the whole calories in, calories out concept out of the water. If you also include, let's even talk about this, the insulin response and the glycemic response of carbs versus proteins, right? Most people don't realize. I've talked to people that have master's degrees in nutrition who didn't realize that protein was or has an insulin response, right? That's even different than carbs, right? Carbs make your insulin spike. Protein is more gradual and long lasting, right? Because insulin is then used, because in the absence of carbs, when you eat protein, insulin is used to help the body absorb the BCAAs and the proteins to manage muscle repair, cellular regeneration, and keeping your body maintained. Those are the nutrients, right? In the presence of carbs, when your insulin spikes, what is there that's your body? It's going to push into your body. It's going to push glucose. It's going to push those carbs into your body, right? So in the absence of carbs, you want that insulin response because it's putting things in that's going to help your body grow and help your body maintain. So not to mention low glycemic response, right? The number of things that you can consider when we talk about just protein, okay? We haven't even gotten into fat and the hormones and how fat helps hormones and things like that, as opposed to carbs and proteins, that calories in, calories out don't take into account. For me, completely makes it a worthless metric, a worthless method for managing your nutrition, okay? So just some things to think about. If you're interested in the way that I do it, I'll just give you a quick overview. I'm very, very in agreement with Dr. Neiman in his protein to energy ratio concept and the P to E. If you haven't seen his book, get his book. I was in the early stages of researching and figuring this stuff out and asking these questions about protein around the time that I heard about Dr. Neiman and started reading some of his stuff, and it kind of just cleared and clicked everything with me. The 1-to-1 ratio is a great way to get started. It's how I base my protocol. I took the 1-to-1 ratio that he talks about, and I took it a little bit further and actually gave it a number to go off of. So my protocol is, and I'll maybe put a link or I'll figure out a way to put a graphic or something either in this video. I don't know. I'll figure something out. I have a graphic that I can link to. My protocol is 1-to-1 ratio, the PE ratio, right? Making sure that my energy intake, okay, fuel calories, the macronutrients that we eat that are used for fuel, fat and carbs, versus my protein, which is used for muscle repair, keeping my body maintained. I keep those at a 1-to-1 or greater for protein, okay? My protein always matches my fuel or is higher than my fuel, right? And that's based on, are you trying to gain? Are you an athlete? What are you trying to do for body composition, right? The lower you go on the energy side, the leaner you get. The higher you go, not above your protein, but the higher you go, the more maintained you have, the more energy, maybe. So that's the basics, right? 1-to-1, keep your protein high, keep your energy at the same or lower than your protein intake. It's really simple that way. You don't have to track macros. You don't have to count calories. Like, you just say, hey, here's the number that I want to hit. I need to eat, I don't know, 18 ounces, 20 ounces of meat every day, and I'm good, right? I can have a potato and I'm good, right? I know that my overall carbs and fat are low and my overall protein is high, then my body composition should change, because we want our body to burn the fuel, the fat that is on our body, okay? Here's another point, guys. When was the last time you heard anybody say they got fat eating too much protein? You don't. It doesn't happen, right? There are studies that have people for 8 and 12 weeks eating up to 3 times their body weight in grams, right? Lean mass. So if my lean mass is 150 pounds, They had people eating, what is that, 450 grams of protein, 400, I don't know, what's one, yeah, 450 grams of protein a day for 8 to 12 weeks, okay? They got leaner. They gained more muscle mass. They didn't get fat. If you can't overeat protein and get fat doing it, then it's not a fuel. Think about that. We get fat when we overeat fuel and our body doesn't have a place to store it. Okay? So if I'm overeating, I'm eating 3 times the amount of protein that I need to sustain, right? And I don't get fat. Well, then what's happening to that food that I'm eating, right? Those calories, what's happening to those calories, right? Nothing, because they're not being burned for fuel. They're being used by your body, right, to grow, right? We are basically an unlimited storage for protein. It's amazing, okay? Some things to think about. I can go on. I'm already at over 10 minutes or something like that. 16 minutes. Wow. You can't overeat protein. Prioritize a protein. Calories in, calories out is not an effective way to manage your nutrition. If you want an effective way to manage your nutrition, just eat more protein. That's really all you got to do. We can talk about satiety. We can talk about how eating more protein will actually help you eat less energy and things like that. But for now, just think about what is protein, how does the body use it, and start doing some of your own research, okay? See you guys.